Good evening and welcome to the July 2nd, 2018 regular meeting of the Mayor and City Council. First item on our agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. I would like to invite our newest employee, Carolyn Ryan, to come up to the podium and lead us in the pledge. If everyone could please rise.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much, Carolyn. Off to a very good start. The next item on our agenda is reflection. And I would like to note that at Summerfest, we did call for a moment of silence to honor those who were impacted by the tragic events in Annapolis last week. And I'm sure they're still on our minds as well. If I can ask for a moment of silence, please. Thank you. Next is approval of minutes, and tonight we have two sets of minutes to approve. The first is from the regular meeting on Monday, June 4th, and we have a couple of minor revisions to it. What's the pleasure of the council?
Mr. Mayor, I move approval of the amended, revised version of the minutes from the council regular session of the council on Monday, June 4th, 2018.
Second.
And just to note, the amendments are just spelling out which police officers were here and spelling out one acronym that was listed on the minutes previously. So nothing substantive. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And that carries 4-0. Next is the
June 18th.
June 18th. Regular meeting of the Mayor and Council on June 18th. What's the pleasure of the council?
Move approval of the minutes from June 18th.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries 4-0. Next, we have presentations, and I'd like to invite Michelle Potter to the podium. You want to do the new employees first, and then we'll come down and do the proclamation. Okay. No, leave it, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're talking to us.
Good evening, Mayor and Council.
Good evening.
I would like to take the opportunity to introduce 4 new full-time employees who recently joined our department. Jenna Ashman, they're all in alphabetical order. Jenna Ashman is a program coordinator with the Cultural Events and Services Division. She has been with our department as a part-time employee since October 2016. She graduated from the University of Maryland at College Park, receiving a degree in psychology. Lauren Hydorn is our new aquatic facilities supervisor. Jenny could stay here. I'm going to have you stay for the proclamation, everyone. Laura Hydorn is our new aquatic facility supervisor. She was formerly with a recreation specialist with Montgomery County Recreation Department. Lauren graduated from the University of Maryland with her bachelor's degree in sociology and received her master's degree in human sciences from Hood College. Carolyn Ryan began employment today on her birthday as the Division Chief of Recreation Services. She was employed by Anne Arundel Parks and Recreation Department for the past 12 years. She holds a Master's of Science in Recreation and Parks Management from Frostburg University and a Bachelor of Science in Health Sciences with an emphasis in sports medicine from Lock Haven University. She is the current president of the Maryland Recreation and Parks Association and is a certified park and recreation professional. Lisa Salvatore is our new accounting specialist with over 20 years of accounting and bookkeeping experience. She comes to us from the Pennsylvania Parks and Forest Foundation, supporting the Pennsylvania State Parks and their Friends groups. And finally, I also want to introduce our intern from the Maryland Municipal League. Teresa Montgomery is a graduate student with the University of Maryland School of Public Policy. So I wanted to go ahead and have them be up here while we do the proclamation.
All right. Welcome to all of you. We're very, very happy to have you on board. All right, proclamation time.
Thank you. Good TERP representation in this crowd.
Yeah.
No offense to the other
Absolutely.
schools.
So this is a proclamation that for Parks and Recreation Month. So each year, at the behest of the National Parks and Recreation Association, Congress proclaims July as National Parks and Recreation Month. This year's theme, A Lifetime of Discovery, challenges children and adults to explore the undiscovered roles of local parks and recreation. By redefining how others think about our local parks and recreation, they'll uncover a lifetime of discovery. To celebrate this year's theme, A Lifetime of Discovery, we're offering a variety of unique opportunities throughout the month. We are having open houses at Parks, Recreation, and Culture facilities as part of the national celebration. We are holding a ribbon cutting at our newly constructed side garden at the Kentlands Mansion on July 12th, and a ribbon cutting at our new interactive water feature in Old Town on July 26th at 11:45, following our Thursday kids concert at 10:30 at the Concert Pavilion. We have a host of activities throughout the entire month. Please visit the city's website at www.gaithersburgmd.gov to see all the wonderful offerings throughout the city. Issuing this proclamation will remind Gaithersburg citizens of the importance of our Department of Parks, Recreation, and Culture's facilities and programs. We hope to encourage all to discover a new experience while they're on their own lifetime of discovery.
All right. Proclamation of the Mayor and City Council of Gaithersburg. Whereas parks and recreation programs are an integral part of communities and are vitally important to establishing and maintaining the quality of life, ensuring the health of all citizens, and contributing to the economic and environmental well-being of a community and region. And whereas these programs build healthy, active communities that aid in the prevention of chronic disease, provide therapeutic recreation services for those who are mentally or physically disabled, and also improve the mental and emotional health of all citizens. And whereas our parks and natural recreation areas ensure the ecological beauty of our community and provide a place for children and adults to connect with nature and recreate outdoors. And whereas the U.S. House of Representatives has designated July as Parks and Recreation Month, and the City of Gaithersburg recognizes the benefits derived from parks and recreation resources, now, therefore, I, Judd Ashman, by the power vested in me as Mayor of Gaithersburg, do hereby proclaim July 2018 as Parks and Recreation Month in the City of Gaithersburg, recognizing the important role that parks and recreation programs play in sustaining healthy, active communities. Proclaim this second day of July 2018, signed by me. And let's give them a round of applause for receiving. Thank you, guys. Okay, next, let's see. Next on our agenda is public comments. This is the time when the mayor and council would like to hear from anybody who'd like to speak on any topic that's not a public hearing topic. Tonight, we do have one public hearing, so if you're here to speak about the CBD zone, then hold on, that will come next. But if you'd like to speak on any other topic, we ask that you keep your remarks to no more than 3 minutes. State your name and address or neighborhood for the record. And when your time's down to 30 seconds, the timer will beep and turn yellow. When it's up, it'll beep and turn red. Do we have anybody who'd like to speak this evening? Going once, going twice. Okay, no speakers this evening. Then we will move on to our joint public hearing. We'll invite the Planning Commission to join us up here. And Tom Lonergan and Laura Howell will be leading us in this discussion. Whenever you guys are ready.
Good evening, Mayor and Council and Commissioners. This is a joint public hearing on text amendment CTAM 7950-2018, which proposes to amend the restrictions on automotive and self-storage uses in the CBD zone. This hearing was duly advertised on June 14th and June 21st, 2018 in the Washington Post and posted on the city's website since June 12th, 2018. As of the public hearing, there are 18 exhibits in the record. The individual exhibits may be reviewed at City Hall during regular business hours or any time on the city's website. 4 of these exhibits have come in since the deadline for submitting materials for the hearing, but they have been made a part of the record and they are available on the city's website. Any objections to the receipt of any exhibit should be noted prior to the closing of the record, otherwise they will be deemed received into evidence. So just some background on this proposed amendment. Currently, the CBD zone, which makes up all of Old Town, prohibits all types of automotive uses. In recent years, staff has received many questions from community members wanting to open up automotive service businesses on CBD zone properties, including one person who spoke about it at the Mayor and City Council meeting in October 2016. During that meeting, staff was directed to look into the issue, and in November gave a presentation to the Economic Development Committee about opening up the zone to auto uses, which the committee was supportive of. And then on June 6, 2018, staff went before Planning Commission and received sponsorship for the proposed amendment. This is the current language in the code. Currently, the CBD zone lists automobile, motorcycle, marine, and truck repair and services, as well as body repair shops as prohibited uses. And then, as I mentioned in the beginning, this amendment also addresses self-storage, and currently self-storage facilities are permitted by right throughout the CBD zone. This map shows the existing automotive businesses and self-storage facilities in the CBD zone. The blue area is outlines the CBD zone. So despite the auto uses being prohibited, there are currently 18 businesses operating in the CBD zone. Those are the orange circles, most of them down here by the railroad tracks. And then there's one self-storage facility that occupies 2 properties over here, shown by the brown circle. All of these auto businesses are currently legally non-conforming, and they date back to when the parcels were previously zoned for industrial uses. So now I'll turn it over to Tom Lonergan to go over economic development's reasoning for wanting to make these changes.
Like Laura said, this has been an issue that's come before you. It's also come before our committee several times over the years, and we thought this was a good time to work with planning staff to potentially re-allow it in a designated portion of the CBD zone. Because automotive repair is a necessary function, but the zoning limits opportunities for those businesses here in Gaithersburg. This use is compatible with the property characteristics of the buildings and sites outside of the Old Town District. They're small parcels, they're alongside the railroad tracks, and they're very unlikely to redevelop into mixed use or other uses anytime soon or anytime at all. And like we've said, these are viable businesses with very few occupancies or vacancies available for businesses seeking to come into the district. Allowing these repair facilities via special exception does encourage capital investment in small vacant industrial buildings, and our regulatory requirements for previously objectionable operating related impacts such as air emissions, we'd be able to control that a bit by having this as a special exception. We can't do that right now. Self-storage facilities, on the other hand, do not complement retail businesses, nor do they generate pedestrian activity. The city has made significant capital investment in public improvements within Old Town to prompt revitalization. We don't think this is a use that helps that. With limited land area in Gaithersburg Historic Center, self-storage and warehousing would prevent future establishment of higher and better uses. And we think that this use generates minimal employment and tax revenue when compared to square footage of the facilities they occupy.
So for those reasons, staff with this amendment is proposing to allow automobile, motorcycle, marine, and truck repair and services, as well as body repair shops, as special exceptions within the CBD zone, except within the defined Old Town District. So within the Old Town District, auto uses as well as self-storage facilities would be prohibited. And I just want to note that this does not address auto sales, so those would still be prohibited throughout the CBD zone. This amendment complies with the Old Town Master Plan. This master plan recognized the numerous existing auto businesses in Old Town and stated that they should be allowed to remain because they provide a valuable service to the residents. However, in the commercial core of Old Town, which equates about to the Old Town district. The master plan calls for more pedestrian-oriented uses and not light industrial in order to strengthen the Main Street feel of the area. So this again aligns with staff's proposal to prohibit auto uses and self-storage in the Old Town district. To give you an idea of where these restrictions would apply, the blue area again is the CBD zone. This purple hatched area is the Old Town district. So within the purple area, auto uses and self-storage would be prohibited, and then in the blue area outside of the purple, auto uses would be allowed as a special exception, and self-storage would be allowed by right. As I mentioned before, all of those existing auto businesses are legally non-conforming under the current code, so they can continue to operate as is, but they cannot expand or move into any spaces that were not previously occupied by an automotive use. With this amendment, any new business, any new auto business that wants to come in would have to get a special exception. And then for the existing businesses, anything that would require them to get a new use and occupancy permit would require them to go through the special exception process. So there would not be any impact on the existing self-storage facility because it's over here outside of the Old Town district. And there also would not be any impact on these auto businesses in the Old Town district because they would remain legally non-conforming with this amendment. And then lastly, with the special exception, the Board of Appeals must approve the use, and this provides some additional oversight because the board can approve the use with certain conditions. They can place restrictions on things like hours of operations or requiring regular inspections if there's concerns over things like vehicle storage, and any non-compliance with any of these conditions is grounds to revoke the special exception. So with that, staff is recommending that the Planning Commission hold their record open until 5 p.m. Wednesday, July 25th, with recommendation on August 1st, 2018, and recommending that the council record remain open until 5 p.m. on Monday, August 13th, with policy discussion on September 4th, 2018. And Tom and I would be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you guys very much for the presentation, for putting all this together. It seemed very thorough. You answered all my questions during the presentation. Anybody have any questions or comments?
I would just make one comment that I'm very much in favor of this, but I think there is another self-storage place just outside, just west of the CBD on East Diamond, Uncle Bob's at the end of the service road. So that's actually prominent. We had a late resident, David Shade, who used to serve on a couple of our committees, that pointed out that all of the entrances to Old Town, the main entrances to Old Town, were marked by self-storage places. Remember that?
It's true.
And I think that that's something that we want to try and change if we can, but certainly those are businesses. But, you know, as we've talked about other self-storage places, they don't bring much employment, and they aren't necessarily attractive and inviting. So I like this plan.
Couple questions. What do you consider a gas station? Is that part of this or not necessarily?
So I'll go back to one of the slides. So the way it's written in the CBD zone currently, it's kind of broad. So automobile, motorcycle, marine, and truck repair and services. So the and services would include gas stations.
So that's how you categorize it. Mm-hmm. The other thing is on sales. What's the background or the logic about not allowing any sales related to automotive uses?
Sales hasn't ever been located over there. There's not really the space for it. And considering there's already can be issues with vehicle storage, it might be.
So what I'm thinking is just a totally hypothetical scenario.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody had a really high-end custom shop that wanted to sell what they were making or restoring or something like that. That wouldn't be allowed, or is that considered more of an incidental or an ancillary use, and they could?
I'm not sure about that. I have to go back and talk to staff to go over that.
Light industrial, maybe?
Fair enough.
Anyone else? Comments, questions? Rizali?
I have one concern, and it's not related to the automobile uses, but more to the self-storage facilities. My one concern is that the criteria for allowing this special exception, if met, we could potentially end up with a lot of these uses in the CBD zone. So I wonder if there's any check and balance that we can use in addition to you're meeting the law, and you have occupancy permits and you're doing everything correctly, to control or to perhaps have a cap on the amount of these businesses that could be in the CBD zone. Because going back to the comment of they're at our entrances and there's so many of them, and their employee level is low. They're frankly, they promote emptiness of our district. So I'm wondering what else in addition to you're meeting all of these requirements of the Board of Appeals that we could potentially place to provide a control of how many of these businesses can be allowed in our CBD zone.
Tom, would that also be a question for Lynn?
It sounds like one.
Yeah. Lynn, did you hear the question?
We can include some other restrictions, and you'll recall we did a text amendment 2 or 3 years ago, if my memory serves me, right on self-storage in a different zone where we did put some restrictions on distance from schools, churches, some other types of uses. So staff could look into some additional restrictions in this particular zone.
But, I'm sorry, I may be a little confused. As I read this, we're outright prohibiting self-storage, any additional self-storage in the CBD. So
Right.
what's allowed by special exception is the automobile uses, but
No, but did I not hear correctly? It's by right.
currently.
It would be by right outside of
Outside the Old Town
District.
Outside of Old Town, but still in CBD.
Only prohibited in CBD, in the Old Town District subset.
Exactly, but
All right.
within the CBD zone, it's still by right.
Then I absolutely share your concern.
For self-storage.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't read it that way either.
Yeah,
I read it as an outright prohibition
I
if
thought
this
this
was
was heading down the
CBD.
road of moving away
No.
from having self-storage. More discussion later, sorry.
Well, I mean, I think we should be clear. I think I'm sensing consensus from both bodies here.
Well, we ought to make sure what the consensus is about, because if we're not sure
I'm gonna
that it's actually a
finish.
restriction.
I mean, there's some. I think there's consensus around wanting to restrict the number of self-storage
Right.
businesses there are, particularly in this zone. I don't know.
But maybe we ought to ask staff what the rationale was to differentiate between the Old Town District and the broader CBD zone for self-storage.
If I may,
Is that
I
the
think
issue?
I think what was explained is that they want to retain the Main Street feel.
Right.
And that's very valid, but I think the area that remains in the CBD zone, it's small enough to in my mind, to provide another level of oversight that precludes it from it becoming plagued with these uses.
Right, so that's why I'm asking staff, what's the rationale for saying that it seems like something we'd be willing to accept as a by right in the rest of the CBD, but not in the Old Town District, as opposed to just banning it outright in the entire CBD zone.
Good evening. Part of and Laura has the map up now. Part of the discussion was the self-storage facilities have always been allowed by right throughout the CBD zone. So as we were looking at this, the Old Town District's an established district. It actually overlays with the Old Town Master Plan as the area most envisioned for redevelopment and mixed use. We already have existing self-storage facilities on the other side on East Diamond. So this is why we took the opportunity. I understand the concerns of the commission and council, but realistically, as you go up Summit Avenue, we felt it very unlikely that those apartment complexes are going to redevelop into self-storage facilities. So it was really just trying to be proactive in the sense of keeping self-storage from moving into opportunities into areas within the CBD Old Town District that we would not want them, and allowing them to basically stay at the fringes where they are. I mean, the other side is when you get over towards Barron's Lumber. I mean, that is an appropriate use for over there. We're not talking about, a highly developed. Councilmember Sesma mentioned Uncle Bob's. That property's still zoned I-3, I believe. So, I mean, we have these industrial edges out on the sides. So, I mean, that was sort of the thinking of this. This one was being proactive, where in some ways with the automotive, it was being reactive and trying to preserve really what the intent was for downtown,
But Rob,
Old Town.
we'll have more discussion obviously later when we do our recommendation, but I think the CBD zone has a higher aspiration than sort of that passive storage kind of use. I mean, it seems like it's a reasonable use on those very specific sites you mentioned, but as a zone, it seems to me when that zone was contemplated, it's about, fostering business and activity and, sort of igniting more of an economic engine than just a more passive use like the storage. So, and that's for discussion later, but that would be my concern, is that maybe by special exception, but not necessarily by right. In the way I think I imagine us wanting to push the CBD zone out, especially if you think about the fact we've talked about rezoning along the whole 355 corridor as CBD.
No, the discussion has been CD,
Or
corridor
CD,
development.
excuse me. Right.
Well, so let me, this is more of a legal question, I guess. Since we have this before us, it's an amendment to city code, if we were to make it more restrictive than what it currently is, would we have to go through a separate process? Or, in other words, they didn't seek to change the by right status of self-storage in CBD zone, but if there were consensus to do it, would we be able to do it during this process, or will we have to re-advertise?
We would need to re-advertise and start the process over.
Okay.
Because even though it seems like it's more restrictive, it's taking away more property rights from owners of property,
So it may make more sense in the context of this to address what's before us, and then if we want to come back and do further.
Yeah.
So when is a new occupancy permit required? Is it upon sale of the building to a new?
Right, if there's a new owner, a new business owner, or a new name, if they want to rename their business, or if they wanted to move to a new tenant space, those all would require no use and occupancy.
So we've got two gas stations, one right next to the post office here, and then one further down the road. Now, basically, if you're going to prohibit those uses in the Old Town district, those folks aren't going to be able to sell their businesses. Is that what I understand? They're grandfathered currently because they don't have to. They're operating on a current use permit. But if they were to try to sell their businesses, the new owner wouldn't be able to receive a permit for that type of operation within the Old Town district. Is that?
Well, within the Old Town district, they would still be legally non-conforming. So as long as a new owner came in within 6 months, then it's still allowed there. So there's a 6-month period where, as long as that new use comes in, it's not vacant for more than 6 months, then it can continue.
So it's the use that carries it, not the owner necessarily.
Okay, so a new owner would buy the gas station and operate as long as there's no break in usage.
Correct.
Which I think was the scenario that was,
The Quince
this is
Orchard at
addressing.
The
Darmstadt.
Quince Orchard Darmstadt one,
Yeah.
yep.
But also farther down the street, some of the automotive businesses have sold or retired or gone out of business, and now because they've been dormant for 6 months or more, somebody else can't move into what essentially is a space that's already fitted out for
It's what
that
happened
kind
to
of use.
Amatucci.
Yeah.
So that's why we don't see two gas station owners here up in arms right now.
Right.
Well, the one gas station on East Diamond is also an auto repair place. They do repairs as well, so it's not just a gas line.
Yes.
Any other comments or questions?
I guess
Phil?
my question for staff, I don't have an issue with this in principle, but, I'd like to understand, and maybe we can address this and get more information when we make a recommendation. I'd like to understand what additional sort of, outside of the zoning side of things, what additional regulations, standards, restrictions, and so forth are placed on these sorts of businesses, things as far as, and I'm really thinking about a lot of the businesses that are there now and some of the problems they have as far as traffic and storage space, and, you take a look at Google Earth and there's all the drive aisles are packed with cars, the lots are packed with cars, the grass is covered with cars.
Yeah.
And specifically on East Diamond Avenue, that prohibits loading and unloading. I drive that road 2 or 3 times a day, and I've been stuck behind auto delivery trucks that stop in the middle of East Diamond Avenue, block traffic to load and unload cars for repair shops because they can't get into the lot. So I don't have a problem with the amendment, but I want to understand how it's going to be enforced and really, what we can do to prohibit those uses from having a negative impact on the surrounding area.
Maybe there's some sort of guidance the planning commission can offer to the Board of Appeals in considering these special exceptions. I don't know if that's
I have
kosher or not.
no idea, and it's more a question of, is there existing things that aren't being enforced that it's just a matter of making sure that is, or is there additional guidance and restrictions that the Board of Appeals needs to consider?
Well, I think in the process of attached to this process is the concept of oversight to those special exceptions that will be granted. I think that it behooves the city perhaps to look at all the existing uses that are operating under the CBD zone.
Yes, so with the special exception process, it goes to Planning Commission for recommendation. Planning Commission can recommend specific conditions be placed on the use. And then it goes before the Board of Appeals for a hearing. And when applicants apply, they have to submit site plans and details about the operation of their businesses. That all gets reviewed by staff. And so, you know, like we mentioned before, it does provide additional oversight because the Board of Appeals can apply these additional restrictions. And I think one of the key things is potentially requiring regular inspections of the properties to ensure that they're complying with these things.
I mean, as a principal, I'm all for integrating these sorts of uses, light industrial, in with a true mixed-use area, but we've got to make sure that it's done in such a way that it's not a negative on the area. It can be done, we just have to make sure we don't create a negative and just write off the area because it's next to the railroad tracks. We'll put stuff there that we don't want to see. You know, it can be done well.
All right. Well, this is the time we'd like to hear from the public. Anybody who'd like to speak on this, we ask that you state your name and address or neighborhood for the record. Keep your comments no more than 3 minutes. If you have additional testimony beyond the 3 minutes, you can submit it in writing. It'll be considered just the same. When your time's down to 30 seconds, timer will beep and turn yellow, and when it's up, it'll beep and turn red. Who'd like to be our first speaker? Come on up.
Yes, my name is Jose Blanco. I'm at 433 East Diamond Avenue on East Diamond, and I own Blanco Services and now Blanco Transportation. And this amendment would greatly affect me in a way that I've been wanting for, as I've talked to you guys before. And then I had to move my office, and I'm outsourcing all my paint work and my mechanical work, which prevents me from growth. I started at 427, moved to 429 because I wanted to grow my business. But not having this amendment, not being able to move, that's what's preventing these smaller businesses from growing and expanding, and allows the parking situation and the unloading on the main road, because these smaller business owners don't want to leave. They don't want to leave because they established themselves on East Diamond Avenue, and see that if they go outside of East Diamond of Old Town, they're gonna run into other hurdles, which is higher prices and per square foot than what we currently get there. The downside that I see and how to limit that is to what I was hoping would happen was when I was at 429, I wanted to grow and expand within that business, because right now there's probably about 12 units there, and each one is just one automotive shop, which means you're getting 12 deliveries per day, if not more, which is blocking the traffic, which is something that I had talked to the owner about it, like, let me keep growing as I grow. And unfortunately, last year, I didn't get to expand, and I wanted to move to 433, which is right next door, which has been vacant for over 2 years. And it's right next door, right next door. I just can't go there because I'm not allowed to use it. And with that, like you said, businesses that have custom shops, that's what we were. We were at 429. People saw our BMWs that we would put on there, white body kits. They loved that. It would bring in more business from Arlington, from New Jersey, from different areas. Customers would come. Unfortunately, we couldn't make it work with the structure, and we had to now. We're losing more money, and is putting a setting back. I've been waiting for this vote to happen and the language to happen, and you guys to allow this. So I'm hoping that you guys consider that. I understand exceptions, and I'm willing to offer suggestions that I think, and I've been there for about 7 years. So I started from 427, moved over to 429 to 431, and now I'm at 433. So I understand the needs of the smaller businesses trying to expand, and we need this. We need it. So just I want to grow and stay in the city. I don't want to move away. I love the city.
So Jose, as John was asking before, do you get the sense as to whether or not business owners down there want to be able to sell as well as service?
Sell parts and stuff
You
like
know,
that?
Custom cars?
No, that's not going to happen because there is no parking. If somebody does a custom car, there's no way to park it, and you end up getting the vehicles damaged. You get a lot of, I just recently did a repair for my neighbor because he had to park it off-site and somebody vandalized his car. And it's because there's so much tension within neighbors, and he suspects it may be one of his neighbors, but there's no proof. So that's not going to happen.
Thank you for your input. We look forward, as we move through the process, we look forward to hearing more from you. And, things do sort of move at the speed of government. We know this has been before us for some time. Any other speakers this evening? Okay.
I think a hand went up.
Oh, we do? Okay. Please. Anybody else, please don't be shy, because we're going to...
My name is Ashwani Arora.
I'm sorry, can you repeat your name?
Ashwani Arora.
Mm-hmm.
I am the owner of a building, 403 East Diamond Avenue, right here. When I purchased this building, I don't know this is a part of agenda today, but I'm going to say something. When I purchased that building, I was shown the master plan. The master plan looked like city of Rockville or Old Town Alexandria, like that. But I don't see any progress except that building in front of us for the apartment building. And they have some places for the office or restaurant or something which is lying vacant from last 3-4 years. I do not know what is the planning going over there. My question is there any way city of Gaithersburg going to implement the master plan, and how long or how soon?
Okay. It's a big question. It's a question we've heard before. It's not necessarily germane to this public hearing, but I'm going to suggest that Tom, I'm going to allow you to speak with Ashwani offline.
We've spoken offline.
Okay. Oh.
Yes.
Okay. And all right. Well, if I'm glad, any of us are glad to speak with you about Old Town, but I want to invite anybody who would like to speak about this public hearing topic. Any other comments about that? Okay. All right, Ashwani, we'll have to get back to you on your question. All right, well, there's a recommendation for the planning commission.
So I guess just one quick comment.
Mm-hmm.
I think when we were talking about the possibility of limiting a little bit more self-storage units within the CBD zone, that's something that I guess staff is recommending we defer until after this segment is completed, and maybe we revisit that.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe as a side note, maybe we also just keep that issue of sales off on the side too, and think about, is that something that ought to maybe be included? I guess we can't do it now, but maybe that would be part of that same follow-up. Is that fair?
Absolutely.
Because I have a suspicion down the road, this is going to look like some potential for sales too, but I don't know. It just seems like it's...
Yeah, I mean, essentially, sorry, you got just 1 second. The infrastructure of these small businesses and these small light industrial warehouses is great for this innovation economy. The small craft economy, that's the kind of place they need. It just happens to be an auto-based craft economy at the moment, but I think it's built to adapt to whatever is going to be here 10 years from now. So it's a great little product to keep and maintain in order to create these small businesses. So just allowing these businesses from a zoning standpoint to evolve is a great aspiration. So obviously I support.
Yeah, agree.
Thank you, Matt.
All right, well, staff recommends that the planning commission hold their record open until 5 p.m. on Wednesday, July 25th, 2018. That's 23 days with anticipated recommendation on August 1st, 2018. Is there a motion, please?
So moved. Second.
It's moved and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that passes unanimously. Mr. Mayor?
Our recommendation is we keep our record open until 5 p.m. August 13th with anticipated policy discussion on September 4th, 2018. It's the pleasure of the council.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, carries 4-0. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
We're going to go into from the mayor and council, and we're going to start with Councilmember Wu.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I see I don't have anything to read here, so I don't know what to say. I'm still in shock and awe after Saturday's wonderful Summerfest, and probably just want to wait to catch Michelle's eye to say what a wonderful event that was. I was there with my colleagues here. I was out here with a lot of you folks, and wow, so speechless. Thank you.
All
Look
right.
forward to next year.
Summerfest was awesome. All right.
Yes.
Mike.
Well, not to be repetitive, but want to thank, it's important, I think, to recognize the contributions, the great contributions from staff, volunteers and sponsors, and most importantly, the people who attended, who had a great time. The police and traffic control, we had a cooperation from, I guess, Park and Planning Police and Montgomery County Police. The CERT team helped as well, so we had a lot of people there making sure that people enjoyed themselves, there weren't any problems. I think a lot of the things that we did new this year were certainly received well. Fireworks were astounding, especially the fact that we had like 3 finales within 3 minutes or something. I thought that was pretty cool. So anyway, just want to, but most importantly, we couldn't do it without our sponsors, without our volunteers, and without the great staff that we have. So thanks very much for that. We started the meeting with a moment of silence. The citizens of Annapolis, actually probably the citizens of Maryland, suffered an enormous loss last week. And so I think we all acknowledge that and the importance of journalism and local journalism is tremendous, and I think we've lost that in some ways locally, not just in Montgomery County and in Gaithersburg, but throughout the United States. The Capital Gazette has been there for over 100 years, making a great contribution to the community. They were hit hard, but I think we have to remember. So condolences to the city, to the citizens, and to the staff of the Capital Gazette. And finally, there's lots of stuff happening this week. It's hot, it's humid. We got heat alerts and air quality alerts, so take care of yourself, take care of your pets, take care of your young children and your elderly neighbors, looking after them. Beware of the signs of heat exhaustion and heat stroke. There are cooling centers that the county has as well. But Wednesday is July 4th, Independence Day, so have fun celebrating, but be safe. So that's it. Oh, I have an announcement. This is an announcement after a closed executive session. A closed meeting was held at City Hall by the Mayor and City Council on Monday, June 18th, 2018 at approximately 10:08 p.m. Pursuant to a motion adopted unanimously. The meeting was proposed to be closed pursuant to the General Provisions article of the Annotated Code of Maryland, Section 3-305B1I. The appointment, employment, assignment, promotion, discipline, demotion, compensation, removal, resignation, or performance evaluation of appointees, employees, or officials over whom it has jurisdiction. The topic discussed was a personnel matter to conduct the city manager's annual performance evaluation. Present at the meeting were Mayor Ashman, council members Harris, Sales, Sesma, Spiegel, and Wu. City staff present were City Attorney Board and City Manager Tony Tomasello, who left at 10:50 p.m. Upon conclusion of the discussion, the closed meeting was adjourned at approximately 10:55 p.m.
Thank you, Mike. Ryan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Not too much this evening. I want to echo what's already been said, and particularly about Summerfest, a wonderful success. Lots of good things have already been said on social media, online, to thank staff and volunteers and vendors and all the participants and people who came. I want to especially also thank Governor Hogan for stopping by. I thought that was a nice treat to have him highlight our city as he goes around to different summer events. And I just wanted to share a story about a moment between me and the mayor that happened at Summerfest that also happened at last year's Summerfest. It was a moment right at dusk where there was just a quiet break in the entertainment. We were getting ready for the fireworks, and he and I were standing together on the hill, the rolling green hills, taking in the lovely scene. And he put his arms around me and he said,
My arm. Was one arm.
One arm. Okay. And he said,
Where's this going?
And he said, look
I
out,
love
look
you.
out at our wonderful city, look out at the diversity of the crowd here, the absolutely wonderful vibe of celebration and positivity as we all come together, the wonderful amenities and services and staff and volunteers that we have here. This is what Gaithersburg is all about. And so I just wanted to say it was so nice to relive that moment, a second year this past Saturday.
Still only one on.
Still only one on. And I look forward to having that same epiphany with you, Mr. Mayor, for many years to come as we enjoy Summerfest and hopefully repeat that same feeling year after year. It was truly tremendous. So thanks again to all involved. Since Mike mentioned the heat warnings and checking in on folks, I did also want to add that the interactive fountain at our new Old Town Park Plaza is now up and running. And we invite families, young children to come and enjoy and splash in the fountain. The operating hours are Tuesday through Saturday, 10 a.m. to 8 p.m., and Sunday, noon to 8 p.m. Through September 2nd. And then there's some different hours in the fall, September 4th to 30th, but over the course of the summer, those are the hours. It's a wonderful new feature, free, here in the heart of the city, and I hope folks will come and enjoy it, particularly on hot days when they're looking for some activities and some ways to cool down. I hope everybody has a safe and happy Independence Day.
Thanks, Ryan. Neil.
So I also was at Summerfest and had a wonderful time. My wife and I really enjoyed it. Hoping maybe a little cooler next year, but otherwise it was really a tremendous event, and I'll echo what everyone else said. Also, over the weekend, we had a chance to participate in the annual neighborhood parade at Quince Orchard Park, which is always a nice event, mostly for kids on bicycles. Those bicycles were moving pretty fast around that path on a hot day, but it was very nice. And for those of you in or near the Kentlands, there'll be a similar parade in Kentlands on the 4th of July at about 9:30 in the morning, leaving from outside of Rachel Carson and heading up Shefali, and there'll be bouncy things and other entertainment for the kids. I know that he watches these meetings from time to time, so I wanted to give a shout out to Ali Mumpower, who just retired after 26 years of service to the city as our chief traffic engineer. I got the chance to work with Ali closely in the Transportation Committee, but also I had some needs from the city before I became a member of the council, and I ended up at Ali's desk, and he was very helpful with some questions relating to how recycling works. So, Ali, you're going to be missed, and hopefully we'll see you around as time goes by. Also attended the Kentlands Foundation's annual meeting, where Ruth Sally Wyke, who was here on our planning commission, had a chance to say her farewell as the outgoing chair of the board of that organization. Really, that organization has done tremendous work. They've changed their full-time management and run any number of social and cultural meetings, events, gatherings, concerts, the 5K, and so on. They do a lot of good for the neighborhood and for the city. So I'd just like to acknowledge another great year for that organization. A couple of other quick things. It was mentioned briefly last week, but now the announcement went out today so that my colleague, Councilmember Wu, and I are both going to be in the incoming core class of Leadership Montgomery. Several other people in the city, including Michelle Potter here, have been through the program, and they assure us that it's great and the hazing is fairly mild. So I'm really looking forward to starting that in the fall. And I have a question for the city manager, and we could wait till it's your turn or now, but I'll give you a heads up. On page 204 in the packet in the monthly report, the financial report seems a little off to me that 11 months into a 12-month fiscal year, the revenue actual versus budgeted seems to be way off, and I'm sure there's a good explanation for that, but looking at the report, I can't see what it is. So if you will be so kind as to have a look and let us know, I think that would be great. And I will point out, once a month, the city staff puts out a pretty detailed report of everything that every department has been up to in that month with a lot of data points. It appears in the monthly packet when it comes out, and it's also available on our website. So for those in the citizenry who are interested in seeing what's up, that's a good chance to catch up on what the city's been doing. Thank you.
Thanks, Neil. I'll let you take a minute on that, Tony. Thanks for bringing up Ollie. Ollie Mumpower has served the city wonderfully and done so much, and his made his mark all over the city in terms of traffic patterns and traffic circles and all things. I mean, I know he did more than just traffic stuff, but we certainly saw him in that light a lot. Summerfest was a really, really proud moment for the city. It was, as Ryan said, a real honor and a pleasure for us to be able to host the governor, for him to be part of our celebration of America's independence. And Ryan's right. I mean, that moment, like right at dusk, that moment each year is one of the moments I look forward to most each year, because there's no other event at which you could really look around and get a real sense of just how diverse and wonderful our community is, and how harmonious that situation is. And you know, I sort of used to get that feeling at the fairgrounds, but I feel it more at Bora Park because it's such a nicer venue. It's just beautiful. I love everything about that event. We do get some pushback from some members of the community for not doing fireworks on July 4th. And I get that, but I think that we are appropriately patriotic, and doing it on a Saturday makes a lot of sense. There's a lot less pressure, a lot more of a chance for our community to come together and sort of in a relaxing way and not worry about having to get through traffic and get up for work the next morning. I think it's great. So kudos to all staff involved. I know I saw people from all the departments there. So, but particularly those in Parks and Rec who really took the lead in planning it. And happy 4th to everybody. Tony, from the city manager.
Sure.
Oh, I'm sorry, wait, before we get to you. Sorry, Tony. We have the announcement for next week's work session, and we have a required public hearing for the FCC as part of our work session. So Lynn, that counts as like regular business, right?
Correct.
Okay, so it's a little unusual, but next week, Monday, July 9th, we have 2 items as part of what's a normal work session meeting for us. One is a public hearing for the FCC required public hearing for the Comcast franchise renewal, and then we have a joint work session on the CD zone as opposed to tonight with CBD. CD zone outreach report and direction. So for more information on the agenda, visit our website or contact the city manager's office at 301-258-6310. Now for you, Tony.
Sure. Starting with Neil's point, I do not have a consolidated answer for you. I suspect that one of the large variances is in other revenue, because that includes reappropriation. But we'll get you an answer from finance ASAP.
Thank you.
A couple other things. I think I mentioned a few meetings back that because the MCPS had decided to do so, we thought it'd be a good idea to test all of our taps and fountains for lead. We did complete that study, and we're completely clear at this point, so that was good news. It was pointed out that we have a public hearing for Comcast scheduled next week, which is odd because it's a work session week. The explanation of that being that this effectively this is Comcast's public hearing, it's not ours. So we expect whatever public is interested will show up, and they'll have a brief presentation and take your questions. But it's really the kickoff of the franchise process as determined by the FCC as much as anybody. And then finally, you all got my request to kind of take a look at the sidewalks and gardens outside of City Hall. Those were what got us thinking about the pesticide and herbicide policy. Hopefully everyone had a chance to take a look and see that it's my first reaction when I kind of noticed it is that the brickwork will be damaged by the roots. This is a recently adopted policy. We're trying to work our way through use of organic herbicides. The crews are a little frustrated because their standards are really high. Our landscaping teams, they don't like the look of it. So we have kind of dueling policy issues here. It appears that we could, do smaller areas kind of more intensely with the organics, but I'm not really sure. I'm not an expert in that. That would be consistent with what Neil sent to us today, that is it KCA or the clubhouse or KCA, that they were able to successfully implement an organic herbicide program on their site. For us, when we have infrastructure actually being damaged by weed infestation, we're looking for some sort of balance. We can live with some clover and some outfields of some ball fields. We can't live with climbing poison ivy vines and things like that. So I asked Diamondback to put together a PowerPoint, and we scheduled it for a work session. So we'd like to get some input from you guys about what the proper balance is, or whether we're just willing to stay the course and just put up with what we have for the time being. That's July 23rd, I believe.
Great. That all you got?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we'll move on to economic development. Tom Lonergan. Tom, were you going to bring up the ribbon cutting for the plaza? I noticed Michelle brought that up.
No, I wasn't.
You weren't. Well, did you say it was the 26th of July?
So we got another meeting to bring it up.
11:45 on the 26th.
Okay. All right, cool.
I'll touch upon the fountain in a moment, Mr. Mayor, but quickly I wanted to mention we got a call from our friends at Avis & Young Brokers to tell me that Montgomery County had renewed its lease for its Board of Elections here in Gaithersburg. It's a big deal because it's a big block of space. The group is going to remain in nearly 67,000 square feet at 18753 North Frederick. It's an important retention for the property known as Seneca Center 2, as the board has the bulk of space within this 90,000 square foot building. The deal represents the largest industrial lease transaction in the county so far this year. Those guys are proud, and rightly so. Wanted to mention that retention. And finally, the fountain. It opened for business last Thursday, and early indicators are that it is a success. From the moment it opened, kids and families have been showing up in big numbers to cool off. Several parents have gone out of their way to comment to staff just how much they like and appreciate the fountain as yet another option for summer fun. Some parents, in particular, referring to the fact that many of the kids who are using it are coming from the nearby apartment complexes that don't have pools or recreational facilities, and this is no cost, and so they're very grateful for this additional option. The project is largely complete, but not entirely. There are still some relatively minor items that will likely go unnoticed by the public, but still need to be addressed by the project's contractors. Other items that will be more noticeable to the public include switching out of some of the jets in the center of the fountain to allow for greater height in some of the center jets, so you'll have more of a steeping effect. The installation of some new planters at the corner of Summit and Diamond, and the placement of the new Adirondack-style chairs, which will be here tomorrow. From members of the ad hoc to all of you on the dais, I just want to acknowledge the people who have been involved, their support, their contributions towards getting this very long-awaited project done. Michelle and Michael, to my left and right, have been instrumental with their departments as well, but in particular Sharon Disk, Sandra Gross from Public Works, and Nate Simpson from Aquatics have just been fantastic with getting it over the finish line. They're really solid workers, and they've done great work. Plaza is open 10 till 8 right now, not Mondays, noon to 8 on weekends, and if you haven't had a chance to go see it, please do. But even tonight when the water's not running, the colored lights are still on, and it looks pretty great.
Cool.
Enjoy.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Congratulations on it.
Yes. Yeah, congratulations. Okay, we're going to move on to ordinances, resolutions, and regulations. And our first item is we have Mike Johnson coming up to the podium.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council. The resolution before you this evening for consideration this evening is a resolution authorizing the city manager to amend our roadway resurfacing, curb, sidewalk, and miscellaneous appurtenances contract. This contract was initially bid and awarded in 2016, and that predated our pavement management initiative, which was done in the following year in 2017. The funding sources, the funding amounts that were assumed to be necessary to keep the pavements at a good condition, needed to be refined based on information that came out of the pavement management exercise. As you recall, when we came before you, it was determined that to keep the PCI, the Pavement Condition Index, at around 78, which is what was felt to be acceptable for the city, that the city should be expending somewhere around $1.3 million a year in CIP money for paving and preventive maintenance work. In addition to that, we have an opportunity, because this contractor is also excellent at doing concrete work, to use operating money to have the operations division address a lot of the sidewalks that need work within the city at a scale that is larger than what the street division can manage all at once. So the requested amendment, there are two requested amendments to the contract. One, we would like to change the duration of the contract, as opposed to being annual, where it's going right now from January to December. We'd like it to match the fiscal year. And the reason for that is that it allows staff to adequately spend money that is programmed within each fiscal year. And then the second amendment is in the fiscal amount, which I sort of explained previously, to get it to match what our pavement management process indicated we should be spending to maintain the roads at the PCI that was desired, that is desired.
Go ahead.
Any question?
Yeah, I have a question.
Sure.
Michael, I guess the first question I have is to sort of delve into explaining why this request kind of deviates from the traditional model of a competitive sealed bidding here, where you've got contractors bidding and saying it will only cost us X dollars to do this, and now you're saying we want to be able to provide additional money beyond what amounts they bid for. Is that because the scope of work is actually changing, or the amount of material that needs to be used is changing as a result of our assessment of the roads? How do we sort of explain that if a bidder comes in and says, you know, we're willing to do it for $1,066,000, we say, well, we want to spend $1,300,000?
The way the contract was initially bid is we received unit prices. Mm-hmm. And then it gave the municipality the opportunity or the latitude to determine quantities of work. So the competitive process is not violated in any way. The winner only is the firm that provided the lowest unit prices for the work that we contemplate. What we're doing is changing the quantity of work to match what the pavement management program indicated. Basically, in synopsis, what the pavement management program is saying is that we would produce a better result by doing more preventative maintenance work and fewer major CIP projects, major repavings and rehabilitations. So in making that shift, it gives us the amount of money that should be spent on different treatments to assure that we achieve the PCI goal that we have.
So it's based on the formula of using the lowest unit price and the amount it would take to get us to a 78 score on our roads, and combining that to get to the amount that's being requested. Is that about roughly?
Yes, basically,
okay.
Basically correct.
Okay.
Yes,
okay.
It is still the lowest responsible offerer, but we're just changing the quantity of work that we're asking them to do.
Got it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions, or would someone like to move the resolution?
I'll move the resolution.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries 4-0. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next, Kevin Etters. Welcome.
Welcome. Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and council members. The resolution before you this evening is to authorize the city manager to enter into a contract for mowing and related landscape services. A mowing contractor was hired on July 31st, 2017, but was terminated on December 31st, 2017 due to poor performance. Lancaster Landscapes Incorporated was the second lowest responsive and responsible bidder. In order to complete the services for the fiscal year 18 mowing season, the city entered into a short-term contract with Lancaster Landscapes for the period of April through June 2018. This was done using purchase order number 2018-284. Lancaster Landscapes Incorporated provided satisfactory service during this period, and the city desires to enter into a contract with Lancaster Landscapes Incorporated for the period July 1, 2018 through June 30, 2019, and then for a one additional fiscal year ending on June 30th, 2020. The cost of the contract will be $131,000 and $131,639.10 per fiscal year.
It's really exact that they got the 10 cents.
That's pretty good.
Blades of grass.
Yeah.
Additionally, funds not to exceed $10,000 shall be added to the contract amount, which shall be designated for additional add-on properties.
Thanks, Kevin. Any questions, comments?
What was the duration of the prior contract that was terminated? Do you know?
That was the first year. It was 1 year with 2 additional terms.
Right,
So this would just be complete the, yes.
This would fill that out. Yeah, I had the same question.
So where exactly do these folks work? What landscaping work are they performing for us?
There are, I think, 26 properties, certain city facilities right-of-ways, 355. We do Muddy Branch. We do stormwater management areas. There's, I think, 26 different properties that they maintain.
Okay, I was just curious because the number seems low. I remember when I was at the Kentlands HOA, I'm sure they spent more money than this per year just to landscape that community, and we've got a whole city here, so.
I think when we switched to per acre and we calculated the acreage, I think we did get a decent price per acre.
We also do some of the work in-house.
Yeah, no, I know that. That's why I was asking how much these guys are doing.
Gotcha.
All right, no, it's fine.
And the amount of the contract, that's the amount of Lancaster Landscapes' original bid when they were the second lowest?
Yes,
Okay.
and they just agreed to go with that original bid.
Got it, okay.
Someone want to move the resolution?
I'll move the resolution.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries 4-0. Thank you very much, Kevin.
Thank you.
Next, Dennis Enslinger. We're going to talk about our shared use path agreement.
The first item I have before you is a resolution for the mayor and council authorizing the city manager to negotiate a revocable maintenance license agreement with the United States Department of Commerce, DOC. This is also related to NIST, which is the National Institute of Standards and Technology for the 124 path. As previously, we were before you where we had a 3-party agreement between SHA, NIST, and the city regarding this particular project, which was signed back in July of 2017. Kind of outlined what all the parties would do. Again, in this particular project, the state is actually going to construct the path, and then we will be responsible for maintenance of the path once it's out of its warranty period. With that, NIST is requiring us to do some of the adjacent maintenance to the path and also the path because it's actually on their land. Unlike other trail projects, we're actually able to get easements, but this is just a license to use the land because it's federal land and they can't really give us easements without acts of Congress, and so this is how they do it. So this basically outlines what maintenance agreements we will do and what NIST will do related to the path. We did do a little bit of looking at what seems more reasonable on some of the facilities. We often do stuff on Muddy Branch because the county doesn't do it at the level we probably would want to do it. So we did a little bit of trading back and forth, and that's included in the agreement too, just to facilitate the ease of maintenance on both of those corridors. And so tonight we're asking you to approve the resolution authorizing the city manager to negotiate and execute the agreement.
This is negotiate and execute. Just want to make sure we're all on the same page.
So what's the timing for this path to actually be constructed?
They're actually doing survey now. We're anticipating that construction would begin in the fall.
Okay. So this project was first conceived when Ali first joined the city 26 years ago.
It was,
right?
and we proposed to build it at probably 1/3
Yeah.
the cost at that
Taken a while, but it's nice to see that
Talk about the speed of
the
government.
wheels are in motion finally.
Mike?
Well, yeah, it took a long time to walk it through the system. Anyway, I was glad to see that it's going to Dodge Drive, so the sidewalk that exists up to that point is gonna be connected, so there's actually gonna be
A
full connectivity, basically from Great Seneca Highway all the way to Clopper Road, so.
Yes.
So that's what's very important, so actually a pretty good running path as well then, so looking forward to seeing it happen.
Any other questions or comments, or let's see. Someone want to?
I'd like to move the resolution.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries 4-0, thank you. And next, we're going to talk about paying for some of these things. Dennis?
The next item I have is a resolution for the mayor and city council authorizing the city manager to negotiate and execute a memorandum of understanding with Montgomery County, Maryland, for the use of development impact tax funds. We've been working on this for a while. The city code allows tax revenues to be collected related to the development impact tax, and they're placed in a separate fund at the county, and then we're allowed to spend from that fund. The previous agreement dates back to 2006. This would update that agreement, allowing us a little bit more flexibility from the previous agreement on what we could spend money on. Again, the county code dictates what's an allowable expense, and so we still have to work with them with regarding that. The MOU is a little bit more generic than in the past. We've tied it just to our CIP, so when we approve a CIP project and then they approve our CIP project, it would be eligible for funding through this tax. One of the bigger projects that is included in that is the BRT project, which currently is just for the alternative planning survey, which we're proposing $1 million to provide to the county. It's a $5 million project overall, split between the county, Rockville, and Gaithersburg.
Dennis, when you say for them to approve our CIP projects, what do you mean?
That's the way the process works. So
Okay.
we have to propose projects, and then typically what we would do on our end is put them into our CIP, and then on their end, they actually have to amend their own CIP because they hold the funding for this development tax. And once they do that, then we can actually expend the funds. So it's a very complicated process from that standpoint.
So our projects are listed in the county CIP, only basically as a placeholder for purposes of allowing them to give us this money to spend.
Correct.
To give us our money back.
All right.
Yeah.
Give us our money
This
back.
would be
Give us our
why,
money back and telling us what we can spend it on.
Exactly, yeah.
So what projects are we gonna put on our list that?
we
that
have all
are
the,
currently
at
there?
least currently I'm negotiating with them on which ones are eligible, but a lot of the bicycle trail paths are ones that we're proposing. Because we don't do a lot of large street projects which Rockville does, so a lot of their downtown street projects they did. Teacher's Way, which is in the original agreement, is still in this agreement because we've been negotiating the payment with regarding to that. And honestly, I think that might be something to deal with your comment earlier, Neil, but I'd have to confirm that. We will not be getting the payment in last fiscal year because we have not signed this agreement. Even though it's in the old one, and that's
But
a
this
whole
has
nother
been
story.
sitting out for several years as well, right?
Yes, and so we're hoping that this would all come to fruition, and we can start moving forward and start spending some of the funding within that account.
So this money is limited to capital projects. Can it be used for maintenance?
It cannot be used for
infrastructure?
maintenance, it
Okay.
actually has to be for improvements. One of
Improvements,
the other
so-
projects we'll be doing, in fact, I have a meeting tomorrow with the county, is the expansion of the bike share. So the two proposed facilities, we would be using funds from that account to actually pay for it. And again, the way it will work is we have to use our funds, and then we get reimbursed typically through their funds.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it makes sense to have it be limited to improvements if the whole point of this impact tax is to increase capacity, right? But
And can you remind us again what level of funding we're looking at it being in the fund at present?
The last time I checked, it was about $14 million.
Right.
Yeah.
real money.
We-
It's real money.
It's real money.
That's why they
Sooner or
don't, that's
later
why
it adds up to
that's
real
why
money.
that's why they have a very difficult time actually
Giving it up,
forking it
giving
over.
back, yeah.
So, yeah.
Again, I believe, the BRT is an important project to us, and so any future funding for the BRT, I would imagine they're going to be asking us to amend this MOU to help fund that particular project too, so.
All right, so this is a resolution authorizing the city manager to negotiate and execute. Someone want to move the resolution?
Move the resolution.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries 4-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis.
If I could just add two
Please.
quick points, that the $1.3 million that we try to get for the last 3 years for Teachers' Way, since it was completed, is definitely part of the revenue shortfall for this year.
Okay.
We're trying very hard not to make it part of next year's, but, if it weren't for Dennis's just relentlessness on this topic, this would not have moved forward at all. So I just need to point that out while
Very
he's
good.
listening.
Yeah.
Good job, Dennis.
Anything from the city attorney?
Just very briefly, I wanted to update you. As you know, a couple meetings ago, I talked about a potential meeting with the FCC. They have pending proceedings that could potentially supersede local government's rights to control their rights of way for the small cell deployment. The meeting was Thursday. I joined a panel of, there were 5 attorneys total, representing the Smart Communities Coalition.
Name the cities that you were representing us with.
Los Angeles, Washington, D.C., and Ann Arbor, Michigan. Yep.
And Gaithersburg.
And
In
Gaithersburg.
Gaithersburg, Maryland.
We're punching over
Powerhouse.
our weight in this.
Man, you are an inspiration. Seriously, you are a national leader on this topic, and we are so grateful, so appreciative.
But we were able to meet with 10 members of the FCC staff. The meeting went very well. They seem to now sort of understand that we have to issue permits and do other things, and there's reasons that it takes us a little while to do that. So I know that we are planning follow-up with individual meetings with some of the commission members over the next couple months. Originally, we anticipated that the FCC would be rendering their decision-making in August, and it now looks like that's been pushed back to probably September or October. But we'll certainly keep you apprised as that moves forward.
Thank you.
Could I add to that? So, I guess earlier in the year, I represented the NLC at a kind of a presentation for congressional staff on the Hill, in which we talked about these issues. And then I was just at the Summer Leadership Forum for the NLC in Little Rock last week. And as soon as I arrived, one of the staffers came up and said, we're setting up a meeting and a tour with members of FCC and FCC staff. They want to use our city as an example of showing the challenges of small cell deployment in different types of environments within the city. So again, we'll be participating in that. So that briefing went really well in the winter, I guess, right? With Lynn and Dennis had a lot to do with setting that up. So we'll be doing it again, but this time with a briefing for the FCC people.
I'll just say that the residents of this city have been before us a couple of times. Couple of them where they seemingly would have wanted to have our heads on pikes about small cell, but the potential for small cell in their neighborhoods, and they asked us to go to bat for them and represent them, and we've done it. We've really with the skill and expertise of our legal team and our outside counsel, the dedication of our staff like Dennis. We've invested a lot of resources in this fight, and there we are on the stage in front of the FCC with LA and Ann Arbor and Washington D.C. I just hope that the residents are aware of to what degree we have really gone to bat on this issue.
At the state level as well, I might add, Mr. Mayor.
That's right.
Because it's not as big a stage as with the FCC and the national level, but because of our leadership and involvement in NLC by folks like Mike, and I'll say Lynn as well, even though it's not directly through NLC, the National League of Cities, but your involvement in the Smart Cities Coalition, and because of our involvement with the Maryland Municipal League and the role that we play in advocating to leaders in Annapolis both at the state and federal level, we're making a significant impact and changing minds on this issue, and hopefully for the protection of our residents and many others around the country.
It is interesting to note that the committee chair who was going to sponsor the small cell or the preemption bill for the communication industry in Annapolis lost his primary election last week. So it'll be interesting to see who the next sponsor might be.
Yes,
if there is one.
we need to remain vigilant though, but it's an interesting development.
But I think actually there were people from the telecommunication industry at this forum, and I think they were aware of what happened as well in Maryland. So,
Anything from any other staff? Not seeing anything. Okay, as I mentioned, we have work session next Monday. 2 items: the Comcast FCC required public hearing and the outreach report and direction on the CD zone. Wishing everybody a happy 4th of July. Until next time, let's do great things, Gaithersburg. We are adjourned.